everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am going to be creating another card for you today. If you are new to my channel, I would love it for you to subscribe, and also if you could click that little bell button so you get notified when I post another video so you never miss one. I am going to be using some Altenew stamps today and using the new Tim Holtz platform, and I also have all of the supplies listed below, so be sure to check it out. I also have a blog post, so be sure to check out my blog as well. You could see photos and more information over there. So I'm taking some watercolor paper and the Persian Motif stamp set from Altenew, and I am flipping the stamp upside down, and this stamp platform is really good for this kind of thing because then you can get it exactly where you want it. So I'm flipping it upside down because I wanted the stamp to be a little bit off of the card. And then I take some Versamark, ink it up, and stamp it. And I just rub my hand over the top of the platform. And because I'm using Versamark on watercolor paper, I like to stamp twice. That way it's really sticky because the watercolor paper will absorb some of that Versamark. And I like using superfine white embossing powder, and I just take it, and with the Versamark the embossing powder is going to stick to whatever the image is, and then you just take a heat tool and melt it, just in case anybody is new to heat embossing. I really like doing this when I'm watercoloring because it helps me stay in the lines a little bit better. It's kind of a cheat way. You can use clear as well, especially if you're using white cardstock. So I decided that I wanted another image on the card, and this one's just a little smaller image there. And I'm just placing it where I want it, and then I will do the same. I'll stamp it twice. And I really like this stamp platform because it helps me stamp images twice, and I like doing that a lot, especially when I'm doing the embossing on the watercolor paper and with sentiments and different things like that. This tool makes it super easy. So be sure to check it out if you are a stamper. It's a really, really great tool. So I take the Versamark, ink it up again, and stamp it twice. You do not have to do this twice. I just like doing it just to make sure that I have a really good impression, especially when I'm doing watercoloring and stuff, because then I know that all of the lines are going to be there. And sometimes when you just do the Versamark once on the watercolor paper, it might not be as sticky as if you were to stamp it twice. So I just use the same embossing powder, and I'm just heat setting that. And I'm going to go slow just for a minute and in real time so I can explain a little bit here. So it's hard to see the image on the video, but once I start coloring and adding the color, you'll be able to see it. So I use a Pentel watercolor brush. I really like these brushes. There's 3 in a pack, and this one's the smallest one. I add water to the petals very carefully because I don't want any of the water to be outside of the stamped image. And then after I added the water, I'm just taking the zig marker and just lightly touching where I added the water, and the water will do all the work for you. Well, some of the work for you. I didn't add too much water, but I did add just enough so that it bleeds out into that paper and you get a really nice watercolor effect. So I take my time doing this. It probably took me 2 hours to do the complete both stamped images, and I take my time. I go back and forth between the water and the brush, and I pounce the watercolor brush on to help blend my color out. I know I've expressed that in past videos, and some people have found it helpful. So again, I am just going to color the image, and I just go back and forth between the watercolor brush and the marker. And you could see I go back into the other petals, and I don't know if this is the correct way to do it or whatever, but it works for me. So maybe it will work for somebody else. And I just go in and just continue to go back and forth between the watercolor brush and the marker. And I do an outline, and then I'll take the watercolor brush and pounce it on and kind of outwards. It's a little hard to explain. You just kind of have to play around with it yourself to figure out how to do it. But it works really well for me instead of doing complete brush strokes. So I do like little pouncing motion instead. Another thing is I do not squeeze out the water from the watercolor brush. I actually have a little bit of water on my mat here on to the side, and I will go back and just add a little bit of water to the brush if I need to. This way I don't get too much water coming out of the brush, because sometimes when you squeeze a brush, it just kind of bleeds out everywhere. So I didn't want that, and I just, like I said, dip the brush into the water. And also when the zig marker gets too watered down, you could see that I just brush it on the mat there, and then that will keep the color coming to the tip of the marker. So I hope these little tips on coloring helps. And you could see here that I just continue to work on each petal, and then if I want to go back into another petal, I will just add water to that petal first so that the color will blend really nicely. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I think I talked about all of the little tips that I wanted to share with you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I am not an expert in any way, but I just share what works for me, and hopefully it might work for you. So I'm just going to play some music, and I will be back. All right, so I share here that I cut out a couple little masks, but I did want to show you that you can use your stamps to mask off your images too. So I did the splattering without realizing that my camera was not on anymore, but I'm just going to show you here that I just line it up over the images that are on the cardstock. And then I'm going to take a little bit of water that has a little bit of the color on it and just squeeze a little bit, like teeny tiny bit, and then just tap on with another tool or something like that. That's how I add my splatters to my projects. Now I'm taking the Painted Greetings, and I love this set. The font is just so perfect, and I am using some StazOn ink to stamp the sentiment, and I just do just because. And you could see here that when I do the stamping, because it's watercolor paper and the StazOn ink dries super fast, it's not a really good combination. So having this Tim Holtz stamp platform really helps with this, because if this was any other, if I didn't have the tool, I would really struggle with lining it up to get a better impression. So I actually stamp it 3 times, because the end of the word because it just wasn't stamping correctly. I don't think I was adding enough ink to it. But you could see here one more time, nice impression, and then there you go. Really nice, crisp sentiment. So to finish the card, I am going to be adding some Nouveau crystal drops. I am obsessed with these. I had bought in a few just to see if I like them. I have a lot of liquid pearls that are probably actually dried up, and I wasn't really impressed, but I kept buying them just because. These create the perfect little dots, and if you take your time, because some of them, as you could see, they're not very perfect, but I'm taking the quick stick tool to pick up the little dots, and I let these dry obviously, and I am adding some what's in there, glossy accents in this little tiny precision tip bottle that I bought, and it really helps get just a tad bit of glue on the back of these little dots. And I keep wanting to say pearls, but they're not. They're just little kind of like enamel dots, I guess. And there's so many different colors, and I'm so happy that I bought black because it was just a perfect touch for this card to finish it off. I have this Prima glue pen, planner glue pen, that I actually really love to use for cards. It's really sticky and it holds really, really well. I didn't want to use my normal Fabri-Tac glue because the glue is really wet, obviously, and it would seep into the watercolor paper and make the card buckle a little bit, and I didn't want that. So this glue stick, I guess it's just a fancy glue stick, really is really sticky, and it holds really, really well. So I just add that to the middle of the card. I'm not too worried about the edges not being stuck completely. It's not a big deal to me. Most likely I will probably give it to my mom or something. So and that completes the card. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, give this video a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and share it on social media. It really helps me out, and it helps me continue to be able to make videos for you guys. So thank you guys again for watching, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.